Hello, dear friends, and welcome to another edition of the Battlefield Map Review. Today is April 20th, 2026, and there is plenty to discuss. Changes across multiple directions simultaneously: Kupiansk, Slaviansk, Kharkiv, Sumy, Kostiantynivka, Zaparidgeia, and Dobrailia. We will also talk about the Middle Eastern theatre, where the situation appears to be moving rapidly toward yet another hot phase. But before we get into it, a sincere request. Please subscribe to the channel and make sure to hit the bell icon to receive notifications about new uploads. This is not just a formality. YouTube is actively suppressing military analytical content. Channels like this one get shadow banned, the algorithms don't promote them, and the vast majority of subscribers simply never see new videos in their feed. Your subscription and activated bell notification are the only reliable way to stay informed. If you have watched these episodes more than once and still haven't subscribed, now is the time to fix that. It takes 5 seconds, but means a great deal to the channel. Thank you. Now, to the map. The Middle East, between negotiations and war. Let's start not with the front line, but with geopolitics, because something serious is brewing in the Middle East, and it directly affects the broader international situation. So what is happening with the American-Iranian negotiations that Trump has been presenting as mega successful and nearly concluded for the past month? The answer is simple. Exactly what is happening with the Russian-Ukrainian negotiations? Nothing so far. The latest deal just around the corner remains a piece of theatre. Meanwhile, yesterday, American forces seized an Iranian commercial vessel. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps responded immediately and bluntly, promising a military response. A number of credible sources now report that a renewed US strike on Iran is only days away. The probability of this is extremely high, and this places the Trump administration in front of a set of deeply uncomfortable questions for which there are no easy answers. The situation is as follows. Iran has no intention of capitulating. This is a fact, not an assumption. Tehran maintains a firm grip on the Strait of Hormuz and, if necessary, is fully capable of resuming mass rocket and drone strikes against American allies in the Persian Gulf. One interesting nuance here. Towards Saudi Arabia, Iran will likely exercise considerably more restraint. The reason is Pakistan, which is bound to Riyadh by a defense pact and maintains neighborly relations with Tehran that the Iranian side values. So the oil kingdom will probably weather the storm relatively unscathed. The UAE, however, a country Tehran has long and consistently disliked, may absorb a genuinely painful retaliatory strike. Now, regarding the strategic choices facing Washington, the first option is to continue the war in its current format. Precision strikes, pressure, attrition. Tactically coherent, strategically a dead end. After 2 to 3 months of such a campaign, a global energy crisis will begin to loom on the horizon, and that is precisely when the question of what next will demand a real answer. The second option is escalation. A large-scale infrastructure war against Iran. Strikes on oil facilities, the power grid, industrial capacity. This path could plunge the Iranian economy into collapse. However, it still does not guarantee victory in any classical sense. It will not deliver territorial control. In essence, this is a draw with destruction strategy. Arab oil will not flow to China, but Americans won't get it either. A peculiar geopolitical stalemate. The third option is nuclear. In theory, it guarantees the destruction of Iran's military potential. But even in this extreme scenario, control over the country is not automatically assured. And the price is colossal: reputational, political, economic, with completely unpredictable consequences for the entire regional architecture. In short, Donald Trump genuinely has much to think about. Wars are easy to start. They always end more complicated than they seemed at the outset. The Dobrailia direction. A cauldron takes shape. Let's move to the front. We begin with the zone of responsibility of the center grouping, on the Dobrailia sector. Following the capture of Kharkiv, Russian forces are methodically expanding their zone of control in order to protect this sizable settlement from Ukrainian counterattacks. The primary effort is currently directed northward. Russian troops successfully crossed the Kharkiv River. though calling it a river is generous. In practice, it is little more than a large stream, and no engineering difficulties arose during the crossing. After crossing, Russian forces advanced northward by nearly 2 kilometers. Footage confirming the presence of troops in the area of a pond northeast of Novoalexandrivka has been recorded. As for the village itself, according to available information, Russian troops entered it previously, but no confirming video materials have yet been received, so the area remains uncolored on the map. The principle is well known: no objective control footage, no map coloring. Additionally, northeast of Hryshine, Russian forces expanded their zone of control over a stretch more than 2 kilometers wide and approximately 1 kilometer deep. This creates an interesting operational situation. In the resulting pocket of roughly 5 square kilometers, there are 3 tree lines in which an estimated 20 Ukrainian servicemen are sheltering in dugouts and foxholes. The exit corridor from this pocket is approximately 1.5 kilometers wide, meaning roughly 750 meters on each side. Moving a unit through such a narrow passage under fire is practically impossible without catastrophic losses. Another day or two of hesitation, and there will be no choice left at all. This group is effectively already encircled. The reason: they waited too long to withdraw. Simultaneously, from the south and east, Russian forces continue to methodically compress the space around Shevchenko, the so-called tip of the triangle, a formidable defensive hub comprising 7 villages that guard the southern approaches to Dobrailia. This will be hard going. The terrain relief makes that self-evident. A key factor is the slag heap elevation above Belitske. It is precisely this dominant feature that allows Ukrainian forces to bring fire down on all surrounding positions. Until that height is taken, Belitske will not fall. This is the axiom of this particular stretch of front. The Kostiantynivka direction, among the hottest. Kostiantynivka is currently one of the most active sectors on the entire front. Judging by the pace of advances, the command has clearly set the objective of resolving this city in the foreseeable future. The results of the last 24 hours here are substantial. Russian forces cleared the tree line south of Ilyivka, and within the village itself secured 6 streets of the residential sector. As a result, half of the settlement is now under stable Russian control. Fighting continues to the north for the remaining residential area. Simultaneously, troops of the South grouping completed the clearance of the industrial zone in the southern part of Kostiantynivka and established control over Osipenko and Melitopolska streets. The Ukrainian resource Deep State recorded an expansion of the grey zone in the eastern part of the city, indirect confirmation that Russian presence there is growing. A decisive breakthrough has not yet occurred, but the momentum is steady. Noteworthy developments also unfolded near Novodmitrivka. Russian troops secured the local cemetery and established a foothold in the southern part of the settlement. The advance here carries genuine tactical significance. One item still requires confirmation. Information has arrived from credible sources that Russian troops entered and established a foothold in Oleksandrivka. As of the recording of this episode, no objective control footage has been received, so we mark this with a question sign, with full respect to the source. However, the significance of this settlement is difficult to overstate. Oleksandrivka is currently the only obstacle standing between Russian forces and the city of Mykolaiivka, and from Mykolaiivka, Slavyansk is just a stone's throw away. If the information is confirmed, this will be a genuinely major operational result. The Kupansk direction, first footage from the apartment blocks, Kupansk Vuzlovyi. Here, a modest but meaningful advance. The first genuinely convincing objective control footage has arrived, confirming the presence of Russian military personnel inside the multi-story residential buildings of Kupansk Vuzlovyi. Prior to this, information from this sector had been fragmentary. The presence specifically inside multi-story structures is a fundamentally important detail. It establishes a solid foothold from which further pressure can be applied against the main body of the urban settlement. Full control over Kupiansk Vuzlovyi remains a distant prospect, but the direction of movement is unmistakable. The Kharkiv direction, a vector toward encirclement. And now, arguably the most operationally interesting development of the day. Following the capture of the Vovchansk farmsteads, Russian forces continue to press their offensive on the Kharkiv direction, and today that vector of advance is becoming clearly defined. First, changes have been recorded in the vicinity of Chuhunivka. The corresponding section of the contact line has passed under Russian control. Second, there are changes in the Zabaridgeia area. Another section has passed under Russian control. Third, and this is the key point, if Russian forces succeed in advancing from Vovchansk toward Bily-Kolodiaz, a distance of approximately 10 kilometers, while simultaneously pushing from Chuhunivka toward Prikolotne, slightly over 10 kilometers, Ukrainian units currently holding the corresponding section of the contact line risk finding themselves in operational encirclement. This remains a scenario, not an accomplished fact. But the vector of advance is exactly that, and the pace of progress provides grounds to watch this direction with great attention. Additionally, reports are coming in of Russian forces moving in the direction of Pokalyan and Boshkova. Current estimates suggest these settlements will pass under Russian control within the next few days. Should the pace of the offensive be maintained, the entire cluster of villages in this area could fall under Russian control within 1 to 2 weeks. The Sumy direction, slow but steady. On the Sumy direction, no dramatic changes, but the trend is holding. The information concerning Teratatine has been confirmed. The corresponding sector has fully passed under Russian control. Moreover, the actual zone of control based on incoming reports appears somewhat broader than what is reflected on the map. It is likely that the front line runs directly through Teratatine and Novodmitrivka. Ukrainian forces attempted to counterattack in the eastern part of Teratatine. The assault groups were completely destroyed, and one Ukrainian serviceman was taken prisoner. Reports are also coming in of Russian forces expanding their control in the vicinity of Myropilya and Novosich. As of the recording of this episode, this information existed only as news reports. No map changes have been registered yet. We continue to monitor the Zaparidgeia direction, clarifications and context. No significant changes have occurred on the Zaparidgeia direction over the past 24 hours, though there are refinements to the zone of control. In the Primorska area, Russian sources report Ukrainian assault groups attempted infantry attacks in the direction of the settlement, including a small group advancing from the direction of the former Kakhovka reservoir dam. The attacking groups were destroyed under fire from Russian forces. According to available data, Russian troops control the greater part of Primorsk. The situation at Stepnohursk is analogous. The settlement is under Russian control. Repeated Ukrainian counterattacks have yielded no success, in large part due to the high concentration of FPV drone crews on the Russian side. Regarding the Huliai Pole direction, Russian forces here are currently oriented primarily toward defense and are not conducting active offensive operations. Nevertheless, FPV activity continues. Strikes are being conducted against VSU positions in Vozdvizhivka, Verkhnya Tersa, and the Hulia Pole area. Earlier, there were reports of a Ukrainian attempt to counterattack from Verkhnya Tersa towards Starukrainka. An armored vehicle was destroyed. Information on personnel casualties is still being verified. Summary of the day. Summing up the results of the past 24 hours. Russian forces took control of approximately 9 square kilometers of territory. The Ukrainian army managed to reclaim roughly 0.3 square kilometers. The difference speaks for itself. Weekend days traditionally yield fewer frontline reports than weekdays. This is a function of the rhythm of military journalism and the pace of official summaries. Nevertheless, the past 24 hours proved productive across several directions simultaneously. Dobrailia, Kostiantynivka, Kharkiv, Sumy. Forward movement in all of them. The Kharkiv vector deserves particular attention. If the current pace of advance is maintained, we may witness the formation of an operational cauldron in the coming weeks. This is not a forecast. It is an identification of a direction. We watch closely. That is all for today. If you found this episode useful, please support the channel, subscribe, hit the bell, and if it's not too much trouble, leave a like. Under the conditions of the shadow ban that YouTube applies to military analytical content, these simple actions determine whether other people will see this episode or not. Tomorrow brings a new map review, and there will certainly be things to discuss. Until then, friends, Take care of yourselves.